The poorest 50% of Americans own less wealth combined than the 3 richest Americans own alone. 3 people. 166 million people. Same number. And here's what nobody tells you. The income class you're born into doesn't just determine how much money you have. It determines what rules you play by. Because in America, there are not one but several completely different financial systems running simultaneously, and which one you're in decides almost everything about your life. By the end of this video, you'll be able to name exactly which system you're inside, exactly how it's designed to keep you there, and, for the first time, exactly where the exits are. Think about a highway. Everyone is technically on the same road. Same pavement. Same sky. But some cars are in bumper-to-bumper traffic, stopping, starting, burning fuel just to stay in place. Other cars are in a lane you can barely see, moving so fast they're almost a blur. And a very small group? They're in a helicopter above the traffic entirely. That's the American income system. On paper, everyone has the same opportunity. In practice, the lane you're born into comes with different speed limits, different fuel costs, and in some cases, a completely different road. The villain here isn't one company or one politician. It's a structure, a set of invisible rules, written over decades, that determine what your money can do, who benefits from your labor, and how hard it is to move from one lane to another. Most people feel this. Few people can name it. So let's name it. Class 1. The poverty line. This is the bottom of the American income system, households earning below $15,000 a year for a single person. Imagine trying to fill a bathtub with the drain open. You're pouring water in as fast as you can, but it leaves just as fast as it arrives. You never actually accumulate anything. That's what living below the poverty line feels like financially. Here's the mechanism. The federal poverty threshold for a single adult in 2024 sits around $15,060 a year, about $1,255 a month. After rent, food, and transportation, there is mathematically almost nothing left for savings, emergencies, or investment. According to the Federal Reserve's 2023 report on the economic well-being of U.S. households, 37% of Americans said they couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing or selling something. That means nearly 4 in 10 Americans are one car repair away from a debt spiral. One bill. That's the cost of the poverty class. And the cruelest part? The less money you have, the more expensive everything becomes. We'll come back to that. Class 2, the working class. This is the largest class in America. Households earning roughly $15,000 to $45,000 a year, the people doing the essential work the economy cannot function without. Picture a treadmill. You're moving constantly. You're working hard. But the treadmill is also moving, and at exactly the same speed you are. You never actually go anywhere. Here's what the working class faces financially. Wages in this bracket have grown, but when you adjust for inflation, the purchasing power of a working-class dollar today is almost identical to what it was in 1979. The Economic Policy Institute found that, between 1979 and 2020, productivity in the American economy grew by 61.8%. Worker pay for the bottom 90% grew by just 17.5%. The economy doubled in output. The people producing that output received a fraction of the gain. Meanwhile, the 3 biggest expenses, housing, healthcare, and higher education, have each grown 3 to 5 times faster than wages over the same period. So working-class Americans work more hours for relatively less, while the things they need most get further out of reach. That's not an accident. That's the structure. Class 3, the middle class. Most people believe this is where stability lives. A household income between $45,000 and $135,000 a year. 2 cars. A mortgage. A retirement account somewhere. Most people think the middle class is financially safe. The reality is the exact opposite. Here's the analogy. Imagine you're renting a house. You pay every month, you take care of it, you call it home. But you own none of it. And every year the landlord raises the rent. That is the middle-class relationship to wealth. It looks like ownership. It often isn't. The middle class holds most of its wealth in one asset, a home. According to the Federal Reserve's distributional financial accounts, the typical middle-class family has roughly 60 to 70% of its net worth locked in home equity. That sounds good, until a recession hits, the housing market drops, medical bills arrive, or retirement comes and the math doesn't work. One bad year can erase a decade of progress. The middle class is not financially secure. It is financially exposed, with a good-looking surface. The deeper trap? Middle-class income is almost entirely earned through labor. You work, you get paid. You stop working, it stops. That dependency on a paycheck is the defining feature of this class, and we'll come back to why that matters enormously. Class 4. The upper middle class. Household income between $135,000 and $400,000 a year. This is where financial life starts to look genuinely different, not just in comfort, but in mechanics. Think of compound interest like a snowball rolling down a hill. At the bottom of the hill, tiny snowball, not much momentum. The upper middle class is the first group that starts rolling from halfway up. The hill does some of the work for them. Here's the mechanism that separates this class. People in the upper middle class have enough surplus income to invest consistently in retirement accounts, index funds, and real estate. According to Vanguard's 2023 How America Saves report, the top 20% of earners contribute more than twice as much to retirement accounts annually as the middle quintile. But more importantly, they do it early enough and consistently enough that compound growth becomes a significant source of wealth. Their money starts making money. And the money that money makes more money. The upper middle class is also far more insulated from emergencies, emergency funds, good insurance, professional networks, and access to credit on favorable terms. This class still earns mostly through labor, but it has begun to plant seeds that the classes below rarely get the chance to plant at all. Class 5. The wealthy. Household income above $400,000 a year, or net worth above approximately $3 million. And here is where the system doesn't just tilt. It flips. Imagine two people growing crops. One is growing food to eat. The other is growing food to sell, and using the profits to buy more land to grow more food. One is farming for survival. The other is farming to accumulate. They look like they're doing the same thing. They are not. At the wealthy class level, income shifts. It stops being primarily wages and starts being capital gains, money made from owning things, stocks, real estate, businesses. And here's the mechanism most people never learn. Capital gains are taxed at a lower rate than regular income. A billionaire who earns $50 million by selling stock pays a top federal rate of 20% on that gain. A nurse earning $95,000 in wages pays up to 22%. The person doing physical labor pays a higher tax rate than the person whose assets did the work. According to IRS data analyzed by the Tax Policy Center, the 400 highest-earning households in America paid an average effective federal tax rate of roughly 23%, while many middle-class households pay effective rates in the same range, despite earning 100 times less. The wealthy don't just have more money. They play by a different tax code. Class 6. The billionaire. This is not just the top of the income ladder. This is a different planet. There are roughly 750 billionaires in the United States. That is 750 people out of 335 million. To visualize it, if America were a high school of 1,000 students, the billionaire would be 0.002 of one student. A fingernail. Here's the analogy. Imagine a game of Monopoly, but one player started the game owning Boardwalk, Park Place, and 3 train stations. Everyone else is still saving up for Baltic Avenue. The mechanism of billionaire wealth is something called unrealized gains. A billionaire's wealth is mostly tied up in stock in companies they founded or own. That stock grows in value every year. But because they haven't sold it, it isn't technically income. And if it isn't income, it isn't taxed. Not yet. Possibly never. Many billionaires borrow against their stock, taking out loans using it as collateral to fund their lifestyles. Loans are not income. Loans are not taxed. ProPublica's analysis of IRS data found that between 2014 and 2018, the 25 wealthiest Americans paid a true tax rate of just 3.4% on the $401 billion in wealth they accumulated during that period. 3.4%, while you pay more than that on a paycheck. Here's what's remarkable when you look at all 6 of these classes together. Notice that every single one of them has a ceiling, and that ceiling isn't made of talent, or effort, or ambition. It's made of access. Access to investment vehicles. Access to favorable tax treatment. Access to credit on reasonable terms. Access to the kind of financial knowledge that isn't taught in any public school in America. The system doesn't keep you in your class by stopping you from working hard. It keeps you there by making sure that working hard is the only tool available to you, while the classes above have tools that work while they sleep. Wages stop when you stop. Assets don't. Every class above the one you're in has one more financial mechanism available to them than you do. That's the design. That's the pattern. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it.